Here are 5 reasons why women often go undiagnosed with ADHD. Stick around to the end for a bonus insight that is a really important part of the realisation process that you may have ADHD. Reason number 1, when a woman has ADHD and autism, from an outside perspective, they may appear neurotypical. Even from an inside perspective, we may believe that this is normal. If you think about ADHD and autism, although they do share similarities and some similar traits, they are actually quite different from each other. For example, ADHD can often be very impulsive, it can be chaotic, it can thrive on spontaneity, whereas autism tends to prefer structure and routine and likes to know things in advance, like what's going to happen. So from a day-to-day life perspective, if you put these things together, if sometimes you're late for things and sometimes you're on time, or sometimes you like to be spontaneous and other times you can't cope with change, you might think to yourself that, oh, this is just normal, this is how everyone is. Again, from an outside perspective, people may just assume that you're neurotypical because you don't come across particularly one extreme or the other. But inside, while you're trying to convince yourself that this feels normal, your brain feels like chaos. It feels like you're constantly being pulled in one direction or another. It feels like you can't find peace. And no matter what you do, it's a struggle to find a particular way that works for you, that accommodates everything that you experience. Number 2, we are often afraid to seek a diagnosis because we wonder if there's any point. So if you are a woman over a certain age, we are growing up, you probably imagine that ADHD was for boys. It used to be believed that only boys got ADHD. It used to be believed that it was only for children and they grew out of it when they became adults. And that is just not true. So when you're an adult and you think to yourself, is there any point in me getting a diagnosis in ADHD or autism? Because what's it going to do in my life now? How's it going to help me? What about if I don't want to take medication? Is there any point even doing it? This often stops us from seeking a diagnosis because we almost believe that there's no point in doing it and it's not going to benefit our lives in any way, which is not true at all. So for this reason, we may believe that something's going on. We may believe that we think differently about things and we struggle with things, but we keep putting off getting a diagnosis because we feel like in some way that we're not worthy of getting that diagnosis because we're past a certain age. Reason number 3 is we power through. As women, we are used to just getting on with things. We give birth to children. When we've got a cold, we just get on with it. We often put ourselves last, which I'm not saying is a good thing to do, to put yourself last, because of course you can't pour from an empty cup, but we often do that. And when we're struggling with things, for example, if we are neurodivergent and we're not sure that we are, or we believe we are, but we don't quite know what to do with it, we often just push past it. And I did that for many years too. And I thought, I'll just try this and see if it goes away. I'll just try doing things differently. And we keep on trying to do things differently and it doesn't help. That is a reason why we often go undiagnosed, is because we just try and get on with it. Reason number 4, sometimes we are so bothered by what people think of us that it puts us off seeking a diagnosis. We are worried about what our husband might say, or friends, or boyfriend, or girlfriend, or parents, or family, and we feel like we're going to be judged for it. So for that reason, we end up putting ourselves last. And even though it is a diagnosis that may help us to move forward in the future, we are more bothered about what other people will think of that than what we think ourselves. And that is a problem that many of us neurodivergent people face. We are often people pleasers. I'm an ex-people pleaser, and I know from talking to other neurodivergent people, a lot of people experience the same things. we often put ourselves last and we don't want to do anything that might draw attention to ourselves. But sometimes it is the best option, and often getting that diagnosis is life-changing. It has been for me. Number 5, we often don't realise we're neurodivergent because we are comparing ourselves to a neurodivergent stereotype. For example, with ADHD, we are often presented with this picture of a young white boy in a classroom who can't keep still and is disruptive, or for autism, a young boy who's obsessed with trains or dinosaurs and things like that. And because of those outdated stereotypes, we don't realise that neurodivergence looks different in females, both girls and women. We don't realise that we don't have to have an obsessive interest in trains or dinosaurs to be diagnosed as autistic. It presents completely differently. But due to these outdated stereotypes, we often go missed. And even a lot of medical professionals still go by those outdated stereotypes, although things are getting a lot better. And I can say that for both my ADHD and autism diagnosis, the professionals that did my assessments were amazing and very understanding, and had a lot of knowledge of how ADHD and autism presents differently in females. But there are still some out there who, there's even some out there who still believe that this is only for children or mainly found in boys, which is obviously, in those cases, that is incorrect. But just to be aware of the fact, no, we don't need to be obsessed with dinosaurs or trains. We don't have to have outward hyperactivity. For example, my ADHD is combined type ADHD. I experience both the hyperactivity and the inattentiveness, but my hyperactivity is often internal in my mind. It is also external, like when I'm excited, I get really outwardly hyperactive. But for a lot of people, that hyperactivity is just internal. It's just a chaotic mind and a mind that can't stop. So it doesn't always appear as you expect it to appear. And finally, the bonus insight is that quite often we may believe that we are one neurotype. For example, for a long time, I started to wonder if I had ADHD. And so many things fit for ADHD. And when I finally, after going through all of these points that I've mentioned today, when I finally did seek a diagnosis for ADHD, and I got my diagnosis for ADHD, so much of it validated my experience and it fit for my life. But then I realised that it didn't fit everything. There was so much that was still, that I still had answers, I still had questions about. There was so many traits that I realised, actually, I think I'm autistic. This was alongside my youngest daughter getting diagnosed with autism, which I didn't realise she was autistic because she was so similar to me. So when she got diagnosed with autism, and a lot of the reasons she got diagnosed with autism were because of traits that I had as well, that made me realise I am also autistic. So sometimes it might be that we seek a diagnosis for one neurotype and then we realise that we are also another. It's also important to note that studies show that for autistic individuals, 50 to 70% of autistic individuals are also likely to have ADHD as well. They often co-occur together. I hope this has been helpful. If you have found value in this video, please like and subscribe, and check out my other videos on ADHD and how to seek a diagnosis.